You said those things in that other class. And now look what you're doing now. Oh, I tried to undo what I did. But then the Catholic boy said something staggering. He said, no, don't worry. I'm glad you did it. Because now he didn't have to be convicted anymore. It's no use talking about Jesus if you don't walk Jesus. You'll just send people to hell. There was a man, my dad talks about him, the holiest man he ever knew, Will McFarlane. I used to sit on his knees. I remember one thing, his face shone. I can't remember much what he said, but I remember this, his face shone. And one day, a person came, my dad uses the illustration, a person came from England, the son of John George Govan, a holy man. But this boy was backslidden. He did not choose the God of his father. He was in the world, in the darkness. And he came to South Africa, and he landed, they come by ship, he landed on the pier there, and there came a man to meet him. It was Will McFarlane. And Will McFarlane did a staggering thing. He didn't, like most of us, would give him tracts or say, you're going to hell, or let me tell you about Jesus. He didn't tell him the gospel. He didn't have to. He was a walking representative of Jesus. All he did was he talked about normal stuff. And within a few minutes, that man, first he was angry, he thought this man must be sent by my father. Then he began to tremble. And by the time he left that place without, I don't think one word being spoken about Christ, he said, I'm going to seek God, that a man can be so holy. Oh, it's so easy to preach Christ. So easy to shout out the words, God died for you. But how can you tell people, come to Christ, if you can't show them Christ in you? It's just words. God doesn't joke. God never jokes, and He never lies. God said, be ye holy as I am holy, and He did not joke. That is the standard. He that saith he abideth in Him ought himself also so to walk, even as Jesus He walked. Could we turn to 1 Corinthians 13 verse 1? You all know the passage. Jesus walked the walk of love, of charity. And these are staggering words. I'm sure you've read them many times. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, which is a special type of love, I am become as sounding brass or as a tinkling cymbal. And it goes on to say later, though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. I am nothing if I have not love. But this love, well, it's not giving money to the poor, because the Catholics do that all the time. It's not having a lot of zeal. Many unsaved people have a lot of zeal. This love is not the love that a father has for his son. It is not the love that you have, those of you who are married, for your wife. This love is the same love that Jesus Christ had on the cross. When as He was nailed to the cross with blood falling to the ground, He said these words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. God says in John chapter 18, the same love that the Father hath for the Son, He says He'll put that in you. The same love, that same love that God the Father has for Jesus, He will put in you. I can ask you, I can give you an example of one of these people who had that love. You all have heard of John Wesley. John Wesley brought nearly the whole of England to God. He brought nearly the whole of England to God in a mighty revival that lasted over 50 years, I think. And he had love. He had charity. He didn't have the love that a mother has for his son. That's wonderful. But he had charity. Because when he came to towns, they knew that their bottle stores and evil places would close down as revival came down. And those shop owners and people of the towns didn't want it. So they came and they threw him over cliffs. And in one place, they stoned him. And stoned him. And stoned him. And stoned him until they left him for dead, lying in the stones, with blood dripping from him. But you know what he did? It's so easy for us to go out and give out a few tracts. You know what he did? He didn't just, I'll go to another place. Where they left him and they thought he was dead, he picked himself up with the blood dripping and he crawled to that town. He said to them with love, with charity, "Come to Jesus." And God brought those people, starting with the people who stoned him, to their knees, and they found Jesus. And let me ask you a very hard question. Do you have this love? Or is your love only the type of love that will give out a few tracts for a few souls? Now and then. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 1 says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am becoming as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. Though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing." John Hyde was another person who had this love. Once in the train, he was speaking to a little boy. And this little boy, he was telling him about Christ. He said, "Oh, come to Jesus." And the boy looked up in his face and he said, he was very cheeky. I want to tell you all he said. He said, "So many people have told me about Jesus." Suppose, people gave him tracts or something or told him about Jesus. So it's rubbish. I'm going to my friends. But John Hyde didn't stop there. He pleaded and he pleaded because he loved this child. And he pleaded and he pleaded. Eventually tears ran down his face, even though this is a boy he'd never met before in his life. And the boy said, "I'm leaving." And he went to another room and the train left.